Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Growth Philosophy Podcast, a bite-sized podcast that aims to help you think better and upgrade your life. And I'm your host, Salik. In the last episode, I touched on the current situation around coronavirus. It's still a big thing, if not the biggest thing in the world right now, so I wanted to share a few more thoughts on the matter, specifically on how I believe you can get through this current pandemic. So I have 5 recommendations, and here is the first one. Let's face it, the situation that we are in now is pretty unprecedented. It's the first time for most of us that we have been faced with a pandemic. Things are nuts. There is panic everywhere, and it's okay to feel some fear and anxiety over the current situation. It's very normal. So if you're feeling some fear and anxiety over it, don't worry. It is a very, very normal reaction. It doesn't make you any less stronger just because you feel some anxiety or worry over the matter. So it is completely fine to feel the fear. What is not fine, however, is to get inundated and swept over by that fear. So feeling some fear over the current state of uncertainty is okay. But then you have to understand that getting swept over by it is only going to do you more harm than good. If you lose your head over the current state of panic, if you start panicking like most people are doing, it really limits your ability to do the best you can for yourself and for the people you care about. The important thing to realize in any challenging situation is that you cannot do what you need to do unless you're calm. If you lose your head, you will probably do more harm than good. To do the best for yourself and for those around you, you have to think things through. You have to sit down, assess situations. You have to then create plans to have the best possible outcome. That is impossible to do if you are losing your shit. So, don't panic. Stay calm. Focusing on what you can control instead of all the things that you cannot control is a great way to not lose your head. So try that. There are lots of things that you can focus on. Lots of things that you are still within your control. Focus on those things. Work out a bit. Meditate. Cook something. Sit down with your family or friends, have a chat with them. Do some work, write, read those books that you have been putting off reading. There are lots of things that are still within your control, lots of things that you can still do that will help you now and in the future, help you and those around you. So focus on the things that you can control and stay calm. Things are bad, but we will get through it only by keeping on top of it. And you cannot do that if you start panicking. So that's the first thing I want you to remember. And that's my first recommendation. And here is the second one. Yes, it is important to stay calm, but that does not mean you should be too relaxed about it. The situation that we are in now is a very serious situation. And it will probably get worse. So, it is better to over-prepare than under-prepare. Precaution is better than cure, and it is better to be safe than sorry, especially in a situation like this. So, take the steps that you can to prepare as much as possible. So this does mean doing things like carrying hand sanitizers with you if you can. Washing your hands if you're going outside. Every time you come back, definitely wash your hands. and try to avoid crowded places as much as possible. The more people there are in crowded places or outside, the higher your risk of exposure. It's just simple logic. So try and avoid crowded places. Also, there is another aspect, and this is about the news and the information that you get. There is a lot of fear-mongering going around. So don't just blindly believe whatever you hear. Go through the information that you get, verify if anything seems a bit iffy. Don't just believe whatever you hear. It's very important, probably more important now than ever before, to filter out the fake news from the factual stuff. So get your information from trusted sources. And even then, if it seems a bit iffy, validate. I quite like WHO's portal on coronavirus. So have a look into that if you want more information on coronavirus. And if I remember correctly, Peter Diamandis has a portal for coronavirus as well, which uses machine learning to collate the factual information about the current updates. So you can have a look into that. I'll see if I can find the link to include in my blog post. So my second recommendation is to over-prepare than under-prepare. Thirdly, practice social distancing as much as possible. So this ties in with my second point about preparing. Social distancing, if you're not familiar with the concept, is basically about maintaining a certain amount of distance between you and anyone else outside. And the recommended distance is about 1 meter, about 6 foot. So when you go outside, try to maintain at least some distance between you and other people outside. Of course, the best thing to do is not to go outside very much. If you don't need to go outside, don't go outside. Because that way you really cut down on the risk of your exposure. The less you go out, the less risk you have. If you need more information on social distancing or any more tips on how you can practice it, I'll find you a link of an article that I found quite useful on the matter. So the third recommendation is about practicing social distancing. So when you go out, maintain a safe distance. The fourth recommendation is something that we often forget, especially during times of crisis. It's about looking after yourself. Self-care, if you will. It's very important to look after others. And I will definitely not belittle that. People important to you are very important, and they need to be looked after. But you cannot look after anyone if you are not in a good position, if you're not in a good state. And I'm talking about both physically and mentally. If you're not in a good state, if you're not in a strong position both physically and mentally, you can't really look after anyone else. If you're not good to yourself, you can't be any good to anyone else. So it is vitally important that you look after yourself, especially during this time. It's very important that you look after your immune system. The stronger your immune system, the higher the chances that you will actually be immune to this virus, or that even if you do get it, you will be able to fight it off. The weaker your immune system, the higher you basically are at risk of contracting this virus. So strengthen your immune system. Eat well, sleep well, exercise. These things will really help. And meditation, that's also really good for your mental state, but it also improves your immunity. There is actually quite a bit of research on how meditation can improve your immune system. Have a look into that if you're interested. So my fourth recommendation is to look after yourself. Now for my fifth recommendation. It's about practicing compassion. During challenging times, it can be easy to get swept over by your fears and forget about practicing compassion and kindness. I've seen stories about how a lot of coronavirus patients, or those who are suspected to have it, are being treated in a way that's almost like they've committed some sort of crime. Having a virus is not a crime. Potentially having it is definitely not a crime. So being treated like a criminal just because you might have a virus or because you have the virus is a very inhumane thing to do. At least that's how I feel. So it is really important now that you do not forget about the importance of kindness and compassion. For us to see any sort of crisis through, it's always important to have kindness and compassion. Without those, we as a species will struggle to survive. Cooperation won't happen without kindness and compassion. So if you're thinking about just from a practical standpoint, kindness and compassion is extremely important, but even just from a humanity standpoint, you can't really forget about it. Yes, things are stressful, and things will very likely get more stressful. So remind yourself that it is important to practice kindness and compassion. Try and look around and see if you can help someone. If someone needs any sort of assistance, offer that to them, if you're in a position to do so. I'm not saying go put yourself at risk, but what I am saying is it's not that hard to be kind and compassionate towards others. Even just sending out good thoughts and feelings, that's not a bad thing. As long as you have that thought inside you, that mindset of kindness and compassion, that will be a good place to start. So try and practice kindness and compassion as much as possible. And have that in mind. So yeah, things are challenging, and things will very likely get more challenging. But we will get through this. Only because things get challenging does not mean you forget the important stuff. So these 5 recommendations will hopefully help you remember some of those important things, and also give you some pointers on what you can do to get through this current challenging situation and this whole coronavirus pandemic. We can get through this, and we will. It's not a matter of if, but rather when. It's just a matter of time. So look after yourself. Remember to be careful about the information that you accept and digest. Don't panic. Stay calm. Don't lose your head. Prepare. Practice social distancing. And practice compassion. I hope these recommendations help you to see this thing through. And I hope you are safe and sound wherever you are. Stay sane. Look after yourself. And I will catch up with you guys again next week. Thank you for listening.